Is your virtual identity the real you? Hi, welcome to Mark and Pete Live. I'm Pete the clergyman. With me, as ever, is Mark the businessman. What have you got today for us, Mark, about this question of virtual identity?
Well, indeed, clergyman Pete. The world has changed dramatically, and in fact, many people have been working from home. But what that does present is that people are struggling, in my opinion, to come to terms with the virtual world. How do you portray your own image in the best light? But crucially, there are some security concerns around particular video collaboration platforms, and that's something we can cover in a little bit more detail.
Yes, the problem with virtual identity is that it's something that can be concocted to the extent that you can't be sure that it's getting across the real you, even if you're trying to portray that. And of course, many people aren't trying to portray that. They're trying to make themselves either look better or more trustworthy, or in your case, sexier. So it's difficult. And as you were saying, that being the case, that it's possible to manipulate your image, you end up with there being security concerns because you might not be who you say you are.
Well, indeed. And in fact, many people have chosen to use certain collaborations, and most popular, I believe, is Zoom. And
Zoom,
this is something that many people will be familiar with, both in business and also on personal life. Many Zoom meetings have occurred throughout the world over the last year and a half. But what is interesting is a lot of people spend an awful lot of time either on the fun side with these animations around your image, or putting strange backgrounds in there just to have a little bit of fun. And people have struggled in some ways to come to terms with, one, how to do it technically, so the fumbling and the bumbling that many people have had trying to get into Zoom meetings. But on the other hand, where I think it becomes a little bit more serious, which is, how do you get across who you really are from a business perspective? Some managers who once were very powerful and dominant in the physical office and had a presence have struggled in many ways to command an audience via the virtual collaboration platform.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's two sides to what you say there. One is competence, I guess. You can come across as pretty confident and confident, but I'm talking about competence, being able to master the office world in which you live, or the business world in which you live. But if you're really terrible at operating the computer and the interface through which you're communicating, then you're going to come across as a bit of an idiot, and you're going to lose that air of competence, let alone being able to intimidate or influence people by your presence.
Well, here's one obvious one, which is you're on mute. And how many times have our listeners heard people say that in a business context?
And you just you look and feel a bit of a fool if you do that. But it's another interesting side light of this is there was a case of a lawyer being put through to court. I think actually he was using Zoom, although this particular feature was using some other app that his children had been using. And what it did is it put the face of a cat over him. He was a lawyer in court, and at a certain point, because comments were made, this lawyer felt he had to reassure everyone that he wasn't actually a cat, which again didn't give him an air of competence, as I was saying. In fact, he gave an air of extreme incompetence, and that sort of issue, which in internet parlance is known as boomer issues, boomer tech. You could handle an Instamatic camera back in the day and maybe a reel-to-reel audio recorder, but you couldn't. You can't handle the digital world. So that's one issue. And the other side of it is, apart from the competence level, is the problem that, of course, it's not real, right? So you're not relating to someone in the same way. So unless you're used to example, looking into a camera rather than at the image. And it's a real technique that TV and film actors learn to be able to put themselves across to what's just an inanimate object, but speaking through it to other people. This is a real skill people develop, and many people can't do it. And also, even if they will be able to do it, it takes time, and we've all been thrust into it. So that certain skill is that certain skill set to be able to use the camera and the microphone in order to get your point of view across and get your personality across is a separate skill. So what I would say, Mark, is what we're finding, I think, is that different people are good at it.
Well,
so
indeed.
as a company changes over maybe to virtual forms of communication, their virtual identity takes over from their real identity as being the one that people know.
Well, here's a bridge link, because I think many HR departments have struggled, in fact, to be able to get the right caliber of individuals. Because although when you look at in recruitment in its wide context, normally people would actually meet somebody in person. Of course, people have not been able to do that. So it's quite plausible that you could be dealing with colleagues that you've never met. And in fact, some employers have actually recruited individuals purely by seeing them via video collaboration. And of course, if you get them into the organization, it's quite, again, conceivable that you may be dealing with colleagues on a day-to-day basis, and all you ever see is their virtual image. And it does actually make me think, well, there's a sense of humor in this, because, as you say, many people typically tend to put over animated objects, whether it be cat-like face or something like that. But here's another thought, because it really, are we really seeing the right side of an individual? And it comes back to this idea of the frightful filter. Blurring your Zoom video background makes your image suit screen snugly, but it's better to blur the foreground, especially if you're ugly. So, Clergyman Pete, here's a tip for you.
Yes, you slipped into a poem there without us realising. Yes, I can see there could be a problem. But of course, if you look at the Zoom features, with Zoom, we're not necessarily promoting them, but it's very popular at the moment. But Zoom has a feature to make you look more attractive by blurring out the lines and this sort of thing.
I use it all the time.
And on cameras on your phone, you find that there's a beauty function. You can make yourself look better. It slims the face and makes it look your skin look softer, this sort of thing. Now, Mark and I obviously don't need that, partly because we're so beautiful, but mainly because we're on the radio. So we're we're perfectly adapted. But the thing about the virtual image that I personally find very attractive is that you can easily adapt it to the different circumstances. So for example, at the moment now, this is not going out in video form, this particular episode, but behind me is an impressive bookshelf. Yes. But the books are actually not real. No, it's not green screen. It's a very large picture. It's a photographic backdrop, like a huge poster on my wall.
Which is misleading, because you'd think that you were sort of educated.
I think that I was educated. Now, which it gives a certain image, and I've got that for videos
scholarly
that I produce. Yeah, it's for videos that I produce when I'm talking about books that I've read. So I've got the books behind me. But it gives, as you say, a different impression. And there's a whole industry sprung up of curated bookshelves where people select the books for you. And I looked into, before buying the image, so how much would it cost to buy lots of books at a big bookshelf, and maybe I could change what they were depending on what I was talking about. But it's far too expensive. Better to just have an image, because it's all in 2D anyway. But you can imagine that. So it's a slight manipulation of my image for me. It's just slight, because I do occasionally read books. It's to give this sort of visual clue that I'm talking about them. But you could have something entirely misleading behind you, and you could, if you have the lighting right, make yourself look very different. Even if it's your actual image on the screen, you can look very different and come across very differently. And if you've got enough money, you can have professional lighting, you can have a professional camera crew, even for your Zoom calls. It seems to me that this virtual world, which for some time seemed to be reducing the difference of opportunity between the rich and the poor, is now matured enough that it's exacerbating it.
We only tend to see the world from the waist upwards. And when we sort of eventually meet these people in person, we think, my goodness, you put on a lot of weight, or my goodness, you're very short or very tall, because we don't get a sense of the full person.
Yeah.
But what does actually worry me a little bit more, and I'm thinking this in a more of a business context, but is Zoom bombing. Now, this is a term which perhaps, has come to light in recent times, but essentially it's where hackers actually hack into your meeting. Now, this is a bit of a concern because, of course, obviously, if you've got somebody surreptitiously listening in or possibly even taking data from your meeting, that's a big concern. Now, what's also noted is that Zoom themselves has actually been sued on this front. In fact, recently, the video conferencing firm Zoom was actually charged by a privacy lawsuit in the United States, and they had to pay $86 million as a result of not protecting their users. So essentially, personal data was shifted and hacked. So this is actually something that people should be mindful of, that when they're sort of going into these collaborations, are they actually doing it with all good intent? From a private point of view, if you're sort of maybe doing a Zoom call with your friends, family, etc., just be conscious, are you fully secure? In a business context, you'd hope that you would be, but it is a concern because we are actually putting ourselves at risk, not just by the way we're portraying ourselves, because odd things can happen. And as Clergyman Pete mentioned, sometimes the unfortunate can happen, and there's many examples of that. But crucially is, have you got somebody else listening in to your meeting? Maybe, Clergyman Pete.
Yes, maybe.
You've had experiences
let's hope
of
so. We're looking to increase our listenership. Yeah, but that is worrying if people are listening in. It may be something that you're trying to achieve, which is noble and good, but for various reasons, you don't want people to be listening into it. For example, you may, for example, be wanting to do something that's noble and good, that's against whatever the current government's attitude is in your country, or it may be a government in another country. National boundaries don't matter here. So you could, for example, in Britain, be saying things against, I don't know, the Chinese Communist Party. They're listening in and they're not happy and they're out to get you. Now, we, of course, conscious of this, are big supporters of the Chinese Communist Party in Britain and think that they're absolutely, they're possibly the best government in the world ever, I would say. If you're listening, folks. But you see, this is a worry. But knowing that virtual identity is malleable, and if you're aware of it, it does give you an opportunity to give the opposite impression. So a skillful person or a skillful group will be able to get these foreign governments running around looking for people when there is absolutely no threat. The threat is from elsewhere. It's a different set of skills. It's a bit like I was saying earlier, Mark, that different people are good at it. You were saying about someone with presence in a real office setting. It doesn't have the same effect when they're just in a little Zoom screen.
Yes.
And in the same way, this set of skills is different from being able to hide from the authorities or do things that get under the radar out in the real world. But it doesn't mean those skills can't be acquired.
True.
I guess what it is what I would say is, Mark, I reckon this sort of thing is here to stay. It's pretty obvious.
Well, it is, but I think that there is one piece of advice that I would give here, sort of conclude, is that we are in this virtual world. It's not going to go away, as you said. However, what I can tell you is that many companies who are allowing employees to work from home are starting now to realize you can get more time out of those individuals, which means that you're sat there boggle-eyed with sore-bottomed after being sat on a Zoom meeting for 10 hours or more.
Yes. And you're speaking from experience there.
That can actually be quite wearing because you're in a sedentary situation. So if you do find yourself being perhaps glued to Zoom or other platforms, be conscious that maybe you should put in some possible break into your day and try and get some exercise.
That's right, because it may be a virtual meeting, but it's a real you. There's a physical body attached to that 2D face on the screen. Yeah, well, I guess that's all from us for this week on Mark and Pete. Thanks for listening. But remember to let us know what you think about this, and really getting in touch with us and let us know about your virtual problems with your real identity, or some sort of wordage like that. Well, reorder my words to make it make sense. But that's all from us on Mark and Pete Live for this week. Catch you next time.